What's up, YouTube? So today I'm going to show you how I make my meatloaf. This can be put together for a weeknight meal or a quick Sunday dinner. So if you're interested, stay tuned and I'll show you step by step. So here you're going to see me dicing up about a quarter of an onion. I prefer to use at least a half of an onion or even a whole onion. But since my kids don't like onions too much, I just use a quarter of an onion to avoid any complaints. And I cut it up small so that I can blend it in well into the meatloaf and they won't even know it's there. So next I'm going to melt about 2 tablespoons of butter in a small skillet so that I can saute my onions. I'm being impatient. I'm trying to make this butter hurry up and melt, but I did turn the stove down to low. You don't want to scorch your butter. Just be patient, unlike me.
A few moments later.
Okay, so here I'm going to add in my chopped onions. I'm going to saute them until they're translucent and a little browned. And while we're waiting for our onions to finish cooking, you're going to go ahead and take out 3 slices of bread and get them ready to toast. Initially, I only toasted 2 slices of bread, and I needed to add 1 more slice of bread. So you see me here doing my 2 slices and popping them into the toaster while my onions are finished cooking. Here they're almost finished. And here I'm going to add my garlic. You should add about a tablespoon of garlic. I don't know why I'm fumbling over this garlic in this video. I guess it's because I'm making a video, but if I wasn't making a video, I'll just throw a heaping tablespoon of garlic in there and call it a day. So you only want to cook your minced garlic for about 30 seconds to a minute, just until it becomes fragrant. You don't want to allow your garlic to burn. So I'm going to stir it up for a few seconds and then I'm going to turn the heat off. While I'm waiting on my garlic and onions to cool down, I'm going to go ahead and check on my toast. It should be ready any second now. Pour off your onions and garlic into a bowl, a large bowl that you're going to be using to mix everything else up into. And then go ahead and get ready to crumble up your toasted bread. You can crumble the bread up by hand. I prefer to use my grater. I just like for it to get very small little crumbles of toast, like little breadcrumbs basically. Okay, so finally you're going to add your 2 pounds of ground beef.
What's that?
This is ground beef. I'm making meatloaf.
You recording a video? They can hear me?
Yeah, but I'm gonna edit it. I'm just gonna make a voiceover.
Okay, so here I'm going to show you this McCormick meatloaf seasoning that I like to use. This seasoning is optional. If you choose not to use a prepackaged seasoning, then you can just double all of the spices, herbs, and seasonings that I'm about to show you in just a second. Okay, so you're going to season to taste. Since I had a low sodium seasoning packet, I added a teaspoon additional of seasoning salt. You can add about a tablespoon if you don't use the pre-seasoned package. Then I go in with some black pepper. I don't know why it seems like it always takes me forever to grind my black pepper. Maybe I use a lot of black pepper, but I just be grinding for a minute, okay? Then you want to add about 1/4 to 1/2 of a teaspoon of ground or dried mustard, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 sprig of fresh thyme, but don't just drop the whole stem in there. You want to peel off the leaves, or you can use 1 teaspoon of dried thyme. Okay, you want to sprinkle a little parsley in for some color. As you can see, I did more than a little bit. I had to scoop some of it out, or I guess I could have left it in there. It wouldn't really alter the flavor too much. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what you should have done, which was sprinkle a little bit of parsley into the bowl. You want to add 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Next, you want to add 2 slightly beaten eggs. One-half of a cup of milk. You can use whole milk. We're using almond milk. I'm going to use my spatula to start getting this all mixed together. I'm going to go in with my hands in just a second. As you can see, I'm folding the seasonings into the meat. You don't want to over mix your meatloaf, which is why I'm starting off using the spatula. Add about 1/4 cup of ketchup. So here's where I noticed that my meatloaf wasn't as firm as I would like it to be, and that I needed to add 1 more slice of bread, or in my case, I'm just going to add about 1/4 of a cup of breadcrumbs, which I already had on hand. So here's the consistency I'm looking for where the meat holds together. Although it is not dry, it is holding together. So I'm going to use my meatloaf pan. The bottom pan is lined with foil to make the cleanup easy, but the top pan has holes in it so that the excess oil and grease can drain off of the meatloaf into the bottom section of the pan. Of course, you press down the meat into the loaf pan to give it the shape of the loaf. Now I'm going to take a butter knife and make indentations into the meatloaf, and this is so that my sauce can go down into those crevices and make the meatloaf that much more sweet and sticky. Okay, here comes the part where you make the sauce. You can go the traditional route and just use ketchup, or you can be like me and add about 1/2 a cup of ketchup, and then you can add some extra sweetness to your meatloaf, which my family really enjoys. I go in with about 1/4 of a cup of honey barbecue sauce with an additional 1/4 of a cup of original barbecue sauce, so it won't be too sweet. Well, it is going to be sweet because I'm going to add some more sweetness in just a second. So now that you have your 1 cup of sauce that you're going to be heating on the stove on low, you're going to top that off with about 2 tablespoons of honey and then 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. You want to add crushed red pepper flakes to taste. And then here I go with this parsley again. You can add about a teaspoon of mustard just to give it a little tang. And then you're going to whisk it up really well until it's all blended together. So here I'm just going back in and making sure that my little rivets are still there. You don't want to make them go all the way down to the bottom so the sauce just falls straight through to the bottom of the pan. You just want to have them about halfway down. And I'm going to pour half of my sauce mixture on top of the meatloaf, spread it out evenly before I cover it with foil and pop it into the oven. I have my oven set for 350 degrees. After the first 30 minutes, we'll come back and remove the foil. While my meatloaf is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my sides. Today I've decided to make mashed potatoes and creamed corn. Here is where I go in after 30 minutes and remove the foil. I'm going to pop it back in for another 20 minutes, and then we'll finish it off for 10 minutes on the end when we add more sauce. Taking this next 20 minutes to finish my sides, although I'm just going to speed through this process because they are not the star of the show. This meatloaf honey is the star of this show tonight. Okay, so now here I'm taking it out the oven after it's been another 20 minutes so that we can add the remainder of the sauce to the top and put it back in the oven for a final 10 minutes. But this time we're going to crank the heat up to 400 degrees.
I'm saucy.
So back in the oven this time on the top rack. We're going to crank it up to 400. And we're going to do 10 minutes. So after the last 10 minutes, I've taken it out the oven and this is the final product. I'm going to let it settle down and cool off a bit while I make the side of corn. And this is the final product. Add a little parsley flakes. And this is my plate, which I've already started eating because it was so good. I'm telling you, if you don't like meatloaf, try it this way. You're going to enjoy it. It was delicious.